All right, YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Or if it's your first time watching, apparently, and I don't want to get into that, but apparently a lot of people are not subscribers that view. I don't know how that works, but welcome. Maybe subscribe, maybe hit the like. I don't know, all those things. But one more topic I want to hit on directly about the disaster situation before we kick off a live chat, maybe sometime this week, hopefully. Just got to get it scheduled in there. But something I'm not talking about the worst case, like examples of this, but identifying and knowing what traumatic stress is in the event of a disaster or a stressful situation. The SHTF is going to cause stress, right? And how that works, and kind of how to identify it, and knowing when you're talking to somebody and how to talk them down to dealing with their traumatic stress a little bit better in the environment at the time, so it doesn't really get worse after the fact. In particular, you hear about the PTSD, and there's real extreme examples of how that's going to happen and stuff, but really talking about kind of low-level incidents and maybe some prevention strategies or mitigation strategies, and look at other resources. Definitely, obviously this video is not going to be the end-all be-all reference for this, but it's something that isn't probably talked about enough. But in particular in this North Carolina, East Tennessee, Georgia situation, all these hurricanes, overall, you're going to see traumatic stress come out of this, right? And then the post-traumatic stress that comes out of it for people as well. Once they are more back into a normal routine, they'll find themselves reacting or dealing with things in a different way because that stress is built up, and their body has a physical reaction has had a physical reaction and continues to have that as a stress reaction to whatever normal events would normally be considered. So it's important to know what we're talking about here. We're talking about a physiological reaction that causes maybe some mental stress in addition to the physical reaction later on after the fact. But in particular, a couple things that happened during my visit that I wanted to bring up and highlight just how minuscule it can be and how easily it can be averted or minimized, mitigated. One was somebody was like, they were exasperated, they're frustrated about the routine and how this routine of not having power, and they are having to work out the generator hours and getting hot water ready, and there was all this work being done in the daytime, and there was so little time in the evening to relax. What we're used to having a certain routine, right? Relaxing in the evenings in the modern world, and then they were having to wait on showers, get hot water. So there was a whole different routine involved for that first week or whatever after the fact, that they were just so they were worn out. It was causing a physical exhaustion, because not only are you working all day, then you have to work to do the things just to clean up and eat and do the things afterwards, right? And they're just like frustrated, and I'm just like, calm down. it's okay, because it's you're going to be like that. And it's like they're exasperated because they didn't know what to do. And in particular, I said, well, why would you know what to do if you haven't practiced it before? If you've not done it, why would you get all worked up about, I don't know what to, I've not done it. Like, take a step back, and if you can help somebody take a step back and look at the big picture, like, don't beat yourself up over not, being able to do it very well because you've never done it. Now, on that side, on the mitigation side, on the prepping side, that's why you practice and train in all kinds of scenarios. Like the 3-day challenge people used to do years ago with, turn your power for 3 days. That's a perfect example of a good way to at least practice it, to at least know what you might want to expect. So there are ways to, be ready for something scenario like this, at least a little bit, at least have an idea of, well, I have this way that I'm going to make hot water, or this way I'm going to produce enough electricity with a generator or whatever to do this task after a long day of cleaning up and doing all the other things that normally might have to happen. So I found that as an interesting, example of somebody inducing stress on themselves that, if prolonged, especially if this power outage would have went for 2 or 3 months, like some people were concerned about, which I've note the county is now 100% back up on, at least from one, the county is 100% on power now. So 2 weeks later, just over 2 weeks, they've gotten everybody's power restored at least. So that's a positive. So can you imagine, though, that there are places that are going to be more negatively affected? So that's kind of, you think about longer term effects of some of those people in those harder hit areas. Stress is going to start building up. Another example, where they had the basement had to be cleaned out, and they just got all this debris all over the property, and it was frustration and the same type of reaction, at least expressed to me. It's like, I just don't know what to do. It's like, well, why would you know what to do? You've never done it. You've never had to clean up your house from a disaster. So take it step by step. Just relax, because it was, you could see it was like, it was just thinking about all the different pieces was stressful. So in any big task, when something like this comes around, if it's not life, if it's not a matter of life, to save life or something right away, you don't have to worry about it, right? So we're talking about cleanup, we're talking about debris cleanup, like, just do what you can. And I explained it, I was like, there's that people are coming to help you, because some people had already come to help, Samaritan's Purse and whatnot, had already come to help do some of the debris piling and, organizing, wood goes over here, metals goes over here. Some of that stuff was happening. And it was like, what's the priority? Well, you got to get your electric back up. I mean, they had temporary, but like they have to get a whole rebuild of their fuse box, where all your power runs into the house had been destroyed. So the solution currently was temporary, and they're going to have to get that whole new fuse panel and everything set up and rewired, and that's going to take problems. And then there's also septic and well issues that might need to be addressed. They got to get it tested. So there's a lot of things starting to pile up on them, decision-wise, and things that have been affected that, initially, okay, everybody's fine, and you kind of let your guard down, and it's like, oh, the stress of all these things. So it's kind of like how it could build up in a daily event, but it's kind of compounded in a disaster scenario like this, when everything just kind of hits you one after the other, and you just gotta, and I was talking to him, and I'm just like, just take it step by step, prioritize, and just find a way that you think you need to get in. What help do you need? You're gonna have to identify what help you're gonna need. And it's always good to, if you find yourself getting in that situation, talk to somebody, work through the problem with somebody. Just talking about it helps get your brain going, because if your brain locks up and you're focused on that, either you're focused on one thing, how people get focused when they get real stressed about just doing one thing, and that's a sign of like PTSD, just being, I can do this one thing, I do this one thing well, and that's all I'm going to do, and then totally everything else gets dropped, right? Or there's so many things to do, they don't do anything and they just shut down. Like, you don't want anybody to go into that scenario at all. So being there to talk to people, if you have the opportunity in a scenario, is very important. And that was another reason I was glad I went, because it was just like getting to touch base with somebody and go into just some high level discussion of, these are the things that have to happen. Okay, that's it, that's good. They gotta they kind of laid out a plan, like right there, like, okay, we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be all right. But if you don't talk through it, you kind of maybe have a little bit of doubt or something, and that stress builds up, and that's where 6 months down the line, you're reacting to something in a certain way, and you don't know why. And one thing I wanted to highlight, to remember and to think about in scenarios like this, disasters, kids are gonna like totally absorb it really well, right? But then things after the fact, like once the disaster's over, you're starting to do fine, but all of a sudden the kids are like different, and things are not the same, and they are having a reaction of some sort. And it can be a lot of different things with kids. It can show in just a variety of ways. And it's just good to be cognizant of that and what the cause is. It's not necessarily this them acting up or, you know, being seeking attention or something. Sometimes it's really just the PTSD kicking in on children. Like if somebody has just had a big life change, like kids just learn how to walk, talk, you know, using the, you know, not wetting the bed, stuff like that, they can regress in all those avenues. If an event like this happens like shortly after they've accomplished those goals, right? If they go through life events and then they can regress immediately after that, and you know, you just got to work back through it again with them. You know, work back. You know, okay, we did it once, we'll do it again. You know, whatever the situation of that type of thing is. You know, they talk about big life changes in teenagers and stuff, start to act out and stuff. You got to be thoughtful of what's really causing it. Is it something, okay, set them down, like, okay, you're acting like this, is not like you. You know, this is probably because of everything that's went on. That, you know, especially long-lasting issues that maybe take away their friends. You know, a lot of the main events, like think about football season. You know, this time of year, if you got kids that are involved in those things and activities that are just cut off. Weeks go by, things that, you know, their senior year of high school, they had all these things planned out. Like, there's so many things that can add up for kids, you know, teenagers and younger, that you just not be cognizant of and just be like, get over. Well, you can't just get over it necessarily. So working through those things with people like that, keeping some of it's getting back into a routine, some of it is you know, good to talk about, you know, in particular with high stress, you know, getting a good diet, not binge eating or, you know, messing up your diet, getting a good diet and like good habits, going back, just keeping yourself healthy, staying on track with doing things that are going to keep your body healthy so that it doesn't regress and then, you know, affect your mind necessarily. So I just want to throw that out there, some things to think about. And the bigger thing is, if you train in some scenarios, if you go through at least some thought processes of these scenarios, you'll be better prepared to deal with the circumstances as they come on, and that'll induce less stress on you during the event. And the less stress they have on you during the event, the less it's going to affect you after the event. So just some thoughts there, YouTube, while you do all the things. I think we're trying to plan a live chat around questions about this whole situation, and see if there's anything we haven't talked about, or if anybody wants to have any questions. But that's a big one, I think, that I wanted to hit on. And we'll talk to you later, YouTube. Prep hard, live free.